Hey friends, I'm Ann Teacherworth with Trunamics, and this is a quick way to release neck tension and bonus mental stress. All right, so here we are, holiday season. You may be experiencing a little extra tension, mental stress and strain, trying to get everything done before the end of the year. Or maybe if you're one of our friends who lives in cold places, I'm so sorry, God bless you, come visit. But you may be feeling that tension from wearing extra layers or being chilly. That can cause a little muscle tension. Or maybe you have some residual Cyber Monday syndrome from sitting at the computer doing your online shopping and everything's feeling a little locked up in your neck. Whatever the case may be, we want to help you feel fantastic in your neck and also relaxed and easeful in your mind. So let's see what we can do. We're going to do some Franklin method. This is one of my favorite things to embody. A little bit complicated because we can't actually touch the piece that we're going to work with, but once you get a hang of it, it's really fun and easy to do and will help release all of those neck muscles and give you nice clarity of mind. So as we begin, let's think, where would you think that the spine attaches to the head? Like if you could touch as close to that as possible, where would you put your hands? So most people, you know, if you're a massage therapist, like you probably have a better anatomical understanding, but your clients would probably say back here, right here, right? Like we sort of have this hinge type mental image and embodiment of how the head attaches to the spine. So we think that the spine, it just comes up and right here there's a nice little hinge and that's how it sits, right? And you can see if we actually were to do that, it sort of contributes to that head forward posture, or when we're in the head forward posture, we would sort of experience that like that's the angle, or that's the area where that pivot would be. But is this accurate and is it helpful? So what we want to do is have the most accurate and beneficial image and embodiment of the anatomy and function, because this is going to improve our function, right? So let's take a look. Where does the spine actually meet the skull? Well, I have a helper. Merry Christmas! So under here, if you can see, this is a skull, by the way. If you look under here, the base of the skull, this is gonna be, you know, spinal cord through here. You see these things that I colored green for you. These are what are called the condyles of the cranium. And if you can see, they're kind of these convex little things, like these little bumps under there. Here is C1. Thank you, C1. It is called the atlas because it holds everything up like atlas. And you see I painted that red because red plus green equal Christmas. And so these are, the red things are the facets. That just means a flat joint of C1. And so red and green go together, and this is the place at which the skull sits on the spine. Interesting. Not back there, right? So let's see if we can take a look at that. Earlobes, grab your earlobes. There's a spot right behind them, kind of a little divot there, and if you go right behind that, you'll hit a bone. That's the mastoid bone. If you just point your fingers straight in from there, about 2 inches in is going to be the center. That's the point at which the skull is resting on the spine, right? So if I turn sideways, you can see this is very different than this, okay? So try going between the two. First, imagine that the skull sort of hinges on the back of the neck. Like that's pretty uncomfortable, actually. Now bring that point of motion, that axis of rotation forward to that other point we found. Okay. And imagine the skull just resting nice and solid on the spine at that point. So as we nod, motion actually happens from there. Can you start to feel that? You should, as you begin to feel it, if you do just a subtle nod from there, you'll notice pretty quickly you get a sense of lift through the top of the head, kind of through the spine, as opposed to this sort of feeling with the other embodiment. You're gonna have more of a sense of like, whoo, floating upright. You'll also notice as you do some movement from here that the neck muscles will begin to sort of melt and relax, and you can even use some visualization to kind of help that. So let me tell you just a little bit more about what that motion looks like so you can have an even clearer picture. And like I said, this is kind of tough because we can't touch it exactly, but it's also very, if you can get a simplified version of it, it's really useful to use at any time. So you can put your hands like this. Imagine these are the condyles of the skull. So these are, your whole skull is resting right on these bottom points here. And you can imagine, like, as you nod, they're gonna do this. Yeah, so as you nod forward, they're gonna kind of rock backward. And as you go back, they're gonna go forward. So if you hold your hands and do the motion, you may be able to feel it better. So you can get a nice sense of that gliding. And then let's imagine the facet joint that's underneath it. So what are they moving in? Well, there's this nice, perfectly shaped little cup that's underneath holding the condyles, and they're just gliding in that facet. So can you, as you nod, can you see that? Can you feel that and experience that happening? So let's try it again. So we'll nod. You can picture that joint space maybe being nice and oily, flowing, free movement. And you don't have to do a big movement. It's better to sort of do a smaller movement and really embody that. So it almost gets to be kind of fun, right? Like I picture those, feel like they're kids' toys that have the big rocking base and they just kind of rock. So here's why I love this embodiment so much. One, just putting your attention and awareness right in that joint space shifts that tension and embodiment pattern from the hinge thing to this more centralized, like your central axis actually moves right through this point. So you're immediately, if you put your attention and awareness there, you're gonna immediately get more of a sense of being upright, your weight might shift a bit more, shoulders will fall more easily over the pelvis. So it's this very key point that can help bring a sense of lift and tensegrity and structural integrity. The other thing I love about it is just a very slight movement there really begins to affect the nervous system and muscular tension. So I find myself in the middle of a maybe tense conversation, or maybe I'm having a hard time focusing on work, like losing mental clarity or something. So you can just go right to that point, give yourself a few nods to let those muscles really release and relax, let the nervous system sort of settle and calm, let that sense of mental focus and clarity return. Very simple, and no one has to know you're doing it. It's like Christmas miracles right in our little skulls. This is also a great thing to use if you are sitting and you find yourself kind of slouching or hunching or pulling up your shoulders. All of the other postures that we do really have this embodiment of a sort of hinge experience here, and there's just going to be a lot of tension in the system. So we may be even affecting blood supply to the brain, which is not so bueno. So if you are sitting and feeling that tension, you can use this embodiment then also just by finding the mastoid process there and putting your awareness right in that joint space between the condyles of the skull and the facets of the atlas. And the more kind of present and aware you can be with that, the clearer, the more accurate your anatomical image is, or maybe you use some metaphorical imagery to help you, you're gonna start to feel that tension release and posture kind of reorganize and reset. Yep, the power of using imagery and embodiment observation in this way is that if we notice that something is maybe unbalanced, we can practice embodying it in a balanced way. So see if we can image it being balanced in terms of the weight that those condyles are putting in the facet joint, the glide being balanced, maybe there's a bit of a curve or tilt. And so we can use this to start image and reorganizing, restoring balance, posture, alignment in a way that's not adding tension to the system. So that is the atlanto-occipital joint. Really simple yet powerful embodiment to give you a sense of lift, uprightness, and also mental clarity. If you enjoyed this video, definitely like it. Love to hear your comments of how you're using it. We want to keep bringing you great stuff to help you feel great in your body, move better, think better, live better. And that's all. Happy holidays.